Alrighty, so let's rock and roll. Hey guys, Magliarditi here, and today I'm joined by Elicia and James Crook from Massage Champions. How you guys doing today?
Right.
Fantastic.
Great. So I want to speak about massage marketing and mindset, how you guys have added millions to your clients' revenue and growth in Australia, and known as Australia's #1 marketing course for massage therapists. So before we do that, can you just introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us a little bit about who you guys are and what it is that you do.
Sure thing. Massage Champions started from when I was about 13. I was diagnosed with a spinal condition called scoliosis, which is curvature of the spine. Massage was a really massive part of my journey as a teenager while I was on the waiting list for surgery. I had 3 half ribs, a full rib, 5 thoracic discs removed, and a few to 10 vertebral levels either side of my spine. How my massage therapist helped me through that is what got me really curious in what's possible with hands-on bodywork. So I left school halfway through year 10, got a job to pay for my massage course, went and did it, and then had lots of different iterations of business over that time.
So massage is, in many ways, has been a way of living for you.
Yeah, since I was about 10.
Wow. So James, how did you get pulled into this?
I literally remember being upstairs at our old house, and Leash was studying massage downstairs, just family and friends in the lounge room, that kind of stuff. So I've been involved with that, the business side of things, sort of hands off, but just I was running my own business at the time. I ran a digital marketing agency for 30 years. So while Leash was sort of working on the business side of things, learning how all that works, practicing her hands-on skills and all that sort of stuff, I was doing the same sort of thing, but in marketing and web design and Facebook and all that kind of stuff came along. So those two businesses were kind of growing really nicely at the same time. But then I had a big moment a few years ago. I went through a big change of lifetime, and it was like, look, I'm going to sell my old business. Even though I enjoyed it, I liked it, I just saw a lot more potential to do a more heart-centered set of work in this new business. I was already doing a little bit of the training with it, but it was really Leisha's baby. Because I had the marketing background, I sold that business, joined forces here, and have been full-time ever since. It's going great.
Wow. So that kind of explains the merger between massage and marketing. So when was the decision for you guys to go from being a masseuse, Elicia, to being business coaches essentially for massage businesses? What was the defining moment between that transition for you guys?
So I've been running the clinic for about 13 or 14, probably about 15 years. And I'd made lots of mistakes. I'd learned from them. I'd changed things. I'd made it start to work. I'd had a business coach because at the time, just because everyone else had one, it seemed like a good idea. My first session with her was really nothing to do with business and everything to do with mindset and learning how our unconscious mind creates the reality that we actually live in. Yeah. I was completely blown away by that. Worked with her for about 3 years, and she really opened my eyes to the 96% that we spend of our lives unconsciously living. Yeah. And really grateful for that. And I'm like, someone needs to teach this to massage therapists, because she'd worked in corporate. The only business that she'd run was her own coaching business. It was very different to running a clinic, a service-based clinic in a regional area. And I'm like, someone needs to teach this to massage therapists, because they need to understand. And I guess what I thought we were doing was normal. I didn't realize that the marketing side of things that I was learning from James over the dinner table was actually really profoundly different to how most therapists were doing business. We had a great website. We had great branding. We were consistent. I'd hired 21 people over a 5-year period. Wow. I created systems. I had a great culture. And I just thought that was normal. And then I started talking to other therapists who none of that was normal for them. And I'm like, okay, well, if someone needs to teach us to massage therapists, it should be me. And so I went and did NLP with a great trainer, did Master Prac, cleared a bunch of limiting beliefs that I had, particularly around money, and went, you know what, I'm going to look at how I created excellence in the bits of the business that worked really, really well, and then how could I replicate that with other therapists.
I really love what you shared there, and I want to come back to it because I think it's a huge point, and that's that you thought what you guys did was normal.
Yeah.
Right? Like the amount of times that I spoke to business owners or had the experience myself where it's like, doesn't everyone act this way, or doesn't everyone have this stuff in place? And the reality is it's not. And I think that there's an even deeper thing that we can unpack there around that is the fact that we so often get caught and stuck in our own way. All right, we all we know is the experience that we have. But all I know is the experience I have of life looking through my eyes, which ultimately is looking through my filters of life, looking through my beliefs, looking through my value structures, looking through my boundaries, looking through my vulnerabilities. And that's the way life shows up for me. And I don't question it because that is my life. But the reality is that the life that you have and the life that you have, James, and everyone else out there watching, listening to this today, are different based on the way that we've grown up. And therefore, based on the way we've grown up, affects those filters that we have and affects the way that we see life, and therefore affects the way that life shows up for us. And this is what I think that's so interesting, and, you know, phenomenal business coach that you had to bring your attention to the inner game stuff, or to back at that stage NLP, right? Because I honestly believe that we never ever have business problems. We only ever have personal problems that get expressed through our business. And so therefore, the most beautiful thing we can do is to actually go and learn off other people and surround ourselves with other people that have different upbringings and beliefs as us, because it causes us, whether or not they're necessarily even achieving the results we want in a certain area, hearing their beliefs brings consciousness to our own. Yeah. Right? So even if we're around someone that has poor beliefs around money and maybe poorer beliefs than what we have, when we hear things, it triggers like, oh, wow, like they think about that way. And it causes us to go, well, how do I think about things that way? And starts to challenge the beliefs that we do have. So how have you guys gone about, I guess, taking those insights into now being, you know, the #1 company in Australia, and starting your international expansion, which is absolutely fantastic as well, around the marketing into massage businesses? And I know that it's so much more than that. I know that you guys do focus a lot on the mindset stuff. Like, how have you transitioned from your clinic and having 21 people into doing what you guys are doing now?
Well, I think the first thing was just to work with solo therapists. So when I created, it's a 6-week course called Fully Booked Without Burnout. It's 36 modules in 6 weeks. And the biggest challenge that I see is that therapists don't take enough action, but it's because they don't know what to do. So I literally create a bit of chaos by giving them way more than they need to do, so they can never sit around twiddling their thumbs going, oh, but I just don't know what to do in my business. It's like, no, now usually they're a little bit overwhelmed by how much content, and I'm okay with that because that's solving the challenges that they had. And I think that was just literally going, what were the chunks for me that changed the game? Like, if I look at where I was, at one point we lost 5 staff in 3 weeks. I rehired everybody within 8 weeks. I rehired the right team, the right cultural fit, and I had them all fully booked at 85% capacity, seeing over 100 clients a week, being the most expensive clinic in my area within 12 weeks. Wow. So when we talk about doubling and tripling your business in that time, I know it's possible because I did it, and I've done it consistently with other clients as well. So I just looked at, well, what were the bits that I needed? And that's where Fully Booked came from. And that is my baby. That's the bit that I kind of play with. Where we started working together was when people are already fully booked and hitting that glass ceiling and wanting to go more. So how do you scale a team? How do you create systems, culture, all that sort of stuff? And also, how do you scale out of the treatment room? So how do you create a program or work with staff, or create an online course and really take that passion that you've got and scale it geographically? And that's where James came in, I think. That's where we work really well together.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit, James, I'd love to know your take. I've got my own experience example of that, obviously, with the stuff we do within our programs. Tell me, like, your experience around the mindset shift that a solopreneur or practitioner has to make to go from being the one that's delivering the massages to being someone who's running a team of masseuses. Can you share a little bit about what the shifts you notice that they have to go through, not just like both structurally in terms of scaling the business, but more so internally as well?
That's definitely a huge internal step for people. And I think it's pretty natural for all of us in any profession, really. It's like as you're growing up, as you're learning, you spend a lot of time as the student. You kind of are in this habit of other people and other places knowing more, and we're sort of stepping through the learning curve to get higher and higher. And then there's a certain point where, as a therapist or as any kind of professional, you suddenly realize that you've got value to give to your clients. So you're sort of in that leadership relationship with them. It's like, I know more, I have more to give to them. But then it's almost like a secondary level of being able to say, well, now I know so much and feel so confident that I can actually step into a leadership position with that. And some people just don't do it. They just sit there running their own thing. Even if they're super busy, they just kind of can't wrap their head around how they would lead someone else. But it's almost worse when they do hire other people but still haven't made that mental leap, and they've got a team around them, but they're not actually leading them. The team is just kind of there, and everybody's kind of on equal standing as far as opinions of how things should work and what's going to happen and different things. And yeah, especially in the massage industry, there is a long history of doing subcontracting agreements or independent contractor agreements, which, without getting into too much of the detail of it, it's changed a lot in the last decade. And so people who were in the industry earlier than that, who had subcontractor agreements, now try and do the same thing with staff. And essentially those same agreements are now no longer valid. And if they get pulled up by the ATO or someone like that and audited, they'll get in a lot of hot water from it. So they're unaware of what they should be doing or could be doing internally, as well as with that structural stuff. It's almost worse when they do it anyway, because then they learn by making these big mistakes, and some of them can be really costly. As it's how we learned. we were in exactly that position. We had a whole lot of stuff in place that we just didn't know any better. We made a lot of mistakes. We went down paths and didn't really understand what we're doing, and we learned a heap from it and learned how to make things work really well. But I guess our goal now is to not have to, no one else has to do that. Other people can just learn from what we've done and learn the right way of doing things up front.
Yeah. I think too, really great insights. I think that either we succeed or we learn, right? And I think the thing that I see the most is it is fairly easy to get systems and processes put into a business, right? It is, if you're willing to take action and willing to not try to get things too perfect, it's fairly easy to get stuff in place. I think the hardest shift that our clients have to make is one through their inner game, their mindset, is going from being a solopreneur, or even going from being someone that has a small team where, like you said, they're all on the kind of same level, to actually operating a business that works without them. Because it's a significant shift that they need to make at the level of identity, right? Like unconsciously, business owners or founders identify themselves with their business a certain way. Like Elicia said before, that's my baby, right? That's my baby, that course that I built. We identify with ourselves in the business a certain way. And to shift to a level where you can allow other people to come in and hire a general manager and integrator to come in and run your business without you being involved day to day is a significant shift that we have to make internally, and one of our identity, because it really relates to how do we bring about a sense of belonging, right? Like if we're in business and we're the salesperson and we try to go and hire salespeople, which we're going to speak to you guys about that in a moment, there's a significant shift that has to be transcended between ourselves, because we're seen as the salesperson, or seen as that's the role we can do, and we get significance and we get belonging and we get satisfaction out of being the salesperson. To have someone else come on and do that, there's a lot of trust, there's a lot of letting go, and there's a huge shift internally of how we relate to ourselves and where we can draw about our fulfillment from within the organization. And the easiest way I relate to this is when I made the transition in my early business being cabinet making. When I was physically the one putting the kitchens together, there was no greater feeling than finishing it and stepping back and looking at this beautiful kitchen and knowing what we'd ripped out and taken away and what was installed. There was a huge sense of gratification from that moment. To then having a team, I was the guy that would quote the job and go back and say it afterwards. Now, there was a sense of significance, but not being the physical person that like put the things together and used the drill and screwed stuff and hammered stuff and cut things and everything else. There was a shift that I had to make around where I sourced my fulfillment from, right? And it shifted from me sourcing it one-to-one, like from an egotistical perspective of like, I've done that, to like, my team's done that, to then shifting another level again, which is we've done that, which they talk about in the book Tribal Leadership, the shifting of leadership levels from 3, 4, and 5, from like, I'm great to you're great to we're great. Yeah. Tell me a little bit though, like you guys are gearing up for an international expansion, which is fantastic, and the process is in place. Look back over the last kind of few years, what do you think has been the biggest challenge or hurdle you guys have had to overcome or work through within your business or within yourselves personally?
Do you want to take that one?
We can both have a go.
Originally for me, it was money. Like I had attached so a meaning to money. When I was 10, my parents went bankrupt, and I made a decision in that moment that if I had money, it could get taken away. So I didn't know that unconsciously was playing out for most of my adult life until a few years ago, which meant that I could make money in my business, but I couldn't hold on to it, because if I held on to it, if we created assets, if we bought a house, if we had a good car, somebody else could take it away. Now, I think for me, stepping into coaching, like my business, because of some of the lessons we made, the business was in debt. And as I stepped into coaching, within 6 months, the business was not only in the black, but it was well into profit. I had more people paying me than I'd ever had before. I made a decision to sell my business. And it, like they say, change happens in an instant, and it did. But within 6 months, my life was completely changed, turned around and different. And 12 months later, that's when James decided to come and work with me, because it was like he could see the impact that we were making. And for me, it was because I overcame that limiting belief, particularly when I was 10. I've had a lot more since, but I think that's been the biggest one, was learning to deal with my relationship with money. And, you know, that's been a huge game changer for me.
Yeah, in many reasons, in many ways too, like it feels like that was something that you actually had to go through and break through on your own, which then allowed and opened up the opportunity for James to then step in and for you guys to kind of essentially turn the chapter into the next phase of this business as well. And I agree with what you say, change can happen in an instant. And I think that there's a lot of preparation that happens up until that point to allow us to be ready for the change. There is a defining moment where it's like, oh, that moment there is when I went from here to here. Yeah, when we look back, it's like there'd been weeks, months, and even years prior that have prepared us to be ready to make the change in that moment. And even when we make the change in the moment, like we might shift some beliefs around money, it still does take time for that accumulation. Right, or for things to solidify. And this is something that I've been noticing more and more in my journey in business, is that where I'm at now, like, is far beyond where I thought possible 2 years ago. But it hasn't felt along the way that there's been leaps and bounds. It's just been consistent steps until one day, all of a sudden, you're like, holy hell, how did I end up here? Like, how was that journey? Because most of it felt like struggle. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wow, this is actually enjoyable now. And so for so long, there was a lot of struggle there. James, what was it for you? Like, what was your big kind of thing you've had to overcome or move through, both personally or professionally, in the last kind of couple of years?
Yeah, I reckon I could relate a lot to what you said about personal identity. When I came into this business, I'd come from running a marketing agency, and I basically stepped into here being the marketer and being the expert marketer and wanting to do all of our marketing as well as the training for our clients. And it was probably, I don't know, a year and a half or something, I did that and did it well enough. But then again, it's like I hit that cap of just like, I'm basically like an employee here. I can't do more and grow the business more if this is what I'm spending my hours doing. So I had a mentor who talked about, could you run your business using mittens? Like, if you couldn't actually type and use a mouse and you had to get other people to do all of that kind of keyboard stuff, what would the business look like? And that was like a defining moment for me. I was like, mind blown. How could I do that? And so I still manage all the marketing. And to be honest, I still do some of it.
But with mittens on now.
But well, I do some keyboard work, but I do have people that do a lot of our regular marketing. It's all just handled. And I remember when I first did that at the start of last year, so going back nearly 2 years, I remember just sitting in my office and going, like, what am I going to do with my time? And it didn't take long to fill it. There's always more stuff to do. But it was that feeling of like, but I am the marketer in this business. Like, what's my role now? And after kind of figuring that out and shifting and changing, it's been a great journey since. But that was one of those big things for me. It was just kind of, how can I move out of the hands-on keyboard work for me and into bigger things, managing and ideas generation, that kind of stuff.
As business owners, we actually have to move to a space where we can be okay with not knowing what the next steps are. Like in the earlier phase of the business, the path looks to be laid out because we're starting off here, right? And it's like, oh, well, I'm starting my business and the goal is $1 million, or the goal is, you know, getting to work without me, or blah, blah, blah. There's so many times through the journey where we have to actually be okay to go, hang on, I don't know what the next step is, because we've almost completed some phase or some level or resolved some karmic attachment that allows us to go, actually, part of this process now is trusting the next step will be made clear and not always having it laid out. Because I think that when we always have it laid out, there's a lot of our assumptions of what we need to be doing or where we need to be going. And there's not the deep connection with trusting and knowing that there's something even greater out there for us. And so well done on kind of picking that up, James. What I'm curious to know though, so you've been the Game Changers for 12 months or so now. Where were you guys at before joining? Like what were I guess, what was working for you guys and what wasn't working so well that you're looking to kind of level up?
My turn. I think, like, to be honest, we're in a bit of a plateau place, probably emotionally as well as in the business. Just at a place where we've been doing a lot of the same stuff for a while, trying to do new things, but not seeing a lot of success with the new stuff. And I think we were kind of in a place where we're starting to think, oh my goodness, are we going to just be stuck here? All the new things we're trying seem to not be working very well. We'd had a sales team for a while, but the turnover within the sales team was really high. Some did okay, some did not so well, but we just kind of hadn't really been able to take the next steps up. And this year, actually financially, we still haven't grown a hell of a lot. But what we have done is, I think, bedded down a lot more consistency in what we're doing and defined our roles better. And almost like I was saying with the mittens thing, we've just got other people on board to help the whole business be more systemized and more machine-like. It's easier to run. So that kind of then creates a better foundation for when we do try and do those new things in new areas.
And I think, like, for me, it was like I'd worked for probably 2 years on adrenaline. So coming out of my last business, when I talk about some of the hours that I spent creating the courses that I created, making sales, doing webinars, all that stuff, it really was my blood, sweat and tears that went into it at the time, which was fantastic and necessary. But on the flip side of that, I'm a great wartime general. So if there's challenges and problems, I step up. But who am I when I don't need to step up? When there's not that stick there, who am I? And I think, like, we launched our book, which was amazing. It was a couple of years ago. And then we went on a tour. We did 17 events in 22 days. We drove to Brisbane and back with the kids in the car, 3,000 Ks. We sold 150 tickets across. I know. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. The kids were great. We sold 150 tickets across the events, which we were stoked with. But our sale, and we'd always in the past made sort of 2 to 3 sales with every event we'd ever had. We don't get a lot to our events, so it was like we were okay with those numbers. And our sales team basically just didn't perform, the sales team we had at the time. So they made 1 sale while we were gone, and I was destroyed by the end of that. Like, emotionally, physically, I was mentally checked out of the business. I was done. I was really burnt out. I literally just remember thinking, well, and the horses you rode in on too, I'm done. We kind of cruised along, but everything went down. So when James talks about being in a plateau, we were kind of coming out of that, I think, when we joined the Game Changers. And then I think for me, it's been about getting the right, really, like, first, I remember the first call we had was like, the reason we have a coach is because then if James doesn't do what you guys tell him to, then I don't have to have that conversation with him, and vice versa.
So you hired marriage counsellors is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. And basically Michael just called us on our BS. It was like, hi, how you doing? We literally just put that as a throwaway line. And he was like, how is that taking personal responsibility for your business? And I'm like,
bam.
Oh, right, that's how we're going to play. I mean, and I love it and hate it in those moments because I do really value growth. It's one of my highest values. But ouch. And it was a great smack. And so I think for me, it's going, what are the little bits that I've missed in working my ass off for 18 months? What are the 1% of things that I haven't put in place in the business that actually are going to make the difference, like setting up profit first. Yeah. Now that took me 3 months to actually outwork, because it meant getting rid of the bookkeepers we'd had for 9 years, hiring the right staff to actually create that process. And in the past, I would have just gone, okay, that's it, we're doing it, and implemented that in a week, and everything would have broken. And instead it was like, okay, how can I do this and actually bring my team on board? Like, wow, how amazing. And it's worked really, really effectively since. So getting things like that in place for us has been phenomenal, and fully booked with our Burnout, that course. I maybe deliver half an hour a week to that now. And that's mainly just working with my team that runs and facilitates that. So I think freeing up our time to be able to work on the things now that we actually really enjoy, like crewing for people in different events, which I really love doing, applying for TEDx, things like that are like, this is the fun stuff that I want to play in. So what else can we be creating in the business to be able to step out and do that kind of stuff?
Yeah. It's an interesting point you raise around like hitting that point of plateau, and most, if not all, businesses reach there. And the mistake that most of them make is by thinking they have to actually do more to get through it. And the reality is it's by doing more that's got you there and kept you stuck. You know, when businesses, there's a thing we talk about, like the valley of death that businesses go through. And if you look, like, it's proven that all businesses go through this cycle. Even if they go on a large growth trajectory for a period of time, they eventually hit the plateau. They tend to go backwards into what we call the valley of death. At that point in time, there's a decision to either move forwards and proceed and grow or not. And in order to grow, there's a few key things that help to move out of the growth, which it sounds like you guys have gone through and done that. One is remove complexity. So actually go through the business and organization and remove the things that are too complex. You know, people put these complex marketing funnels and sales systems and processes in place. But the reality is like that KISS principle of keeping it simple, stupid, it will get you to, you know, 7, 8 figures. So one thing is check on, is the business too complex right now? Like, we're running a marketing company, running a business coaching company, we're running a gym, whatever it is it too complex? How can we simplify it for the people? Number two is that sometimes businesses are built on shoddy foundations. You know, we can build a multiple 6-figure company, but the foundations don't support 7-figure growth. And so sometimes we have to go through and undo a lot of the stuff that we've made to create more rigidity through the structure and more reinforcement to then scale past 7 figures, which is a big part of what you guys have done as well. Like, part of this has been topping back up your emotional bank account and getting to a level where you're like, hang on, the business is doing a little bit more revenue right now than what it was doing, but our deliverability time has gone way down. Our stress levels have gone way down, anxiety, everything else. And we're now energetically in a state that we can now push for the next phase of growth. And so in that, you are strategically thinking more about moving forward. So the journey to get us to 7 figures is very much one around a lot of hustle, like Street Fighter, like he's doing a lot of things, throwing a lot of shit at walls and hoping that it sticks, right? Yet that won't get you to 8 figures, right? What gets you to 8 figures is the ability to step back from your business and think a lot more about the business problems and work out where you're best to invest your time and money. Like you said, you implemented Profit First over 3 months. You could have done it over a week. But the effect of doing it over a week and the breakdown within your team, within your culture, within the momentum of your business will be far more catastrophic than 3 months and having it put in place to where you can then just build on consistently. The other thing that you guys spoke about as well, which I think is a really important point, is, you know, I think the mistake a lot of people make is trying to do more all the time instead of just seeing business as a series of problems, right? If you want to go from being a startup doing $0 to $1 million, or from, you know, 6 figures, multiple 6 figures to say 8 figures, it's just a long string of problems, right? And what's going to get you there faster than anyone else is being able to step back and strategically identify what is the first problem, what is the biggest bottleneck. And what happens is a lot of people look at this string of problems and they start working on problems here, here, and here, right? And they can fix those, but then nothing happens. There's no momentum because the problem that's stopping you from growing is still down here. And so if we've got the ability to step back from our business, take time out of it, do some meditation, have a regular fitness regime, things like that, we can go, okay, what is the actual problem that's stopping us from moving forward to one level? Now that level might be saving you 1 hour a week, or it might be making you $1 a week. But if you just work simultaneously to identify what's the next problem, the next problem, the next problem, you do start to move into a space of momentum as opposed to trying to do 10 things at once. Right? Like all this crap that people are doing is not necessarily getting them the results they want. Oh, I need to content market on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and send emails out. And it's like, when's the last time you got someone that signed your program from email? Oh, 6 months ago. Okay, well, that's probably not the best investment of your time right now. Like, where are your leads coming from? Yeah. What have been some of the key things that you guys have implemented that you felt have made the biggest or the best results in that last 12 months or so?
I think Profit First is definitely one of them. I think the other thing for me is one of the strategies that I have developed as a business owner. I was homeschooled from grade 4 to year 10, and I think it's really been a really effective strategy, but also can hold me back, which is that I have a prolific ability that I must finish things. So learning to realize that it's okay to not finish things that are no longer serving me. That was a really big learning for me on one of the Sherps that I attended, and just being able to go, okay, so if I'm watching some training that I was told to, because it might be a good idea, and it's not resonating with me, it's not helping me with the challenge that I'm facing today, and I can't see how it's going to help me in the next 3 months, why am I still spending time watching it? Because a plan said it. Have the calibration to be able to make the decision on where are you at, where do you want to go, and what is the challenge, and fix that, not that.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually been really big for me.
I reckon one of the other big things has been hiring staff to do delivery for us, or to work with us doing delivery. We haven't actually totally got no involvement with that at all. but we've had a team for a few years, but we've sort of focused the team on the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
And we've still very much been the delivery people, and for the most part doing marketing and sales too. Had some help with that, but we've been like the figureheads of that. Whereas in the last 12 months, we have got a great person delivering our lower end program. And it's been really amazing to sort of welcome her into the fold, watch her do it. And then it's almost like a little bit unbelievable that she accepts responsibility for the program and actually loves just handling these clients as much as we did. And in some ways, she does an even better job because that's her sole role with us, right? Whereas we've got so many other things that we need to focus on. Sometimes we miss things. So it's like a gold prize just having these people come in and help. And we've just got someone in, like literally just the other day, onboarded them to help with our 12-month program as well. So we're kind of looking forward to having that in there.
Yeah.
And I think part of that find the next challenge string for us has been that sometimes the problem that seems most visible has a couple before it that aren't necessarily that obvious. And so for us, it's like the sales team has always been a bit of a bugbear. It's like sometimes it kind of works, but sometimes it just kind of doesn't. So we've spent a lot of time kind of churning on that, learning on that, iterating different models and trying all these different things. But the reality is, if we had have solved a few of these other problems, we would probably have more time and energy to do sales ourselves or to manage that team better. And that's kind of the position that we're in now, where it's like we've got a smaller team again, but they're going quite well because we're more involved with them, because everything else isn't just all the time weighing down on our shoulders and all that time being spent all over the place.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Like years ago, we had an issue trying to hire salespeople. I remember a mentor said to me, he said, the stronger your marketing is, the weaker your sales team can be. And selling like high ticket things over the phone, like, you know, selling a 25 to 50K program in an hour and taking someone's credit card is a pretty challenging feat for anyone, right? Yet the business owner carries a certain amount of stature around them when they are the ones selling it, right? But I took that back and I was like, but our marketing's great. Like we're generating hundreds of leads every week. And then I sat with it and I thought, no, our marketing is not great. Just because you get someone to opt in doesn't mean you have good marketing. And so I really took on board what he said, looked at it from a different perspective and started working on, rather than trying to keep hiring a sales team or train a sales team, I looked at how can we generate better quality leads than just getting people to opt in. And what I found is that when we started getting that right, we then attracted better quality salespeople anyway, because we had better quality leads for them to sell, salespeople that had skills around selling high ticket. And so that problem was solved through fixing, like you said, the actual problem. So there's problems in the symptoms. And when we spend time thinking about it, we can go, okay, well, what's, you know, asking like the 5 whys, well, why is that a problem? And why is that a problem? And why is that a problem can help us to kind of identify what is the actual core issue right now that's creating these referral pains essentially in the business.
Yeah, you've said that so much better than I did. That's even just brought clarity to me. That's great. Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. I had a funny experience the other day. I still don't know how I feel about it, but I was we sent an email out to our database on Friday about a little mini program we're running, and we had like 50 odd opt-ins in the first couple of hours, which is pretty awesome. And I jumped into one of my sales guys' inboxes just to have a look at this. And I noticed this reply someone had sent back. And he's like, oh, hey, Matt, some guy, Barry, from your business sent me an email around a program. Like, who is he and what's this about? And there was this bit of a moment for me. Like, number one, I didn't send the email. It came from me, but obviously the team sent it. Number two, I was like, wow. Like, it was this surreal moment of going like, oh, shit. Like, people don't even know who I am anymore.
Yes.
And so there's this bit of a moment of going like, well, this is like really fantastic because I've achieved what I've wanted, which is to have a business that can deliver results without me being involved in the front person. Yeah. But the other side, like my ego took a massive, like a massive smack in the face with the cricket bat. Because I was like, wow, that next level shift of identity going, wow, I actually need to be okay with this now because the business is actually growing bigger than me. Like I couldn't control it even if I wanted to anymore. So it was just interesting thing to I guess share with you guys as well, around like be careful what you wish for, and when you get it, just be prepared that it might not feel the way you thought it might feel.
I'm looking forward to that. Bring it on.
So what else have you guys learned, like through the task order, the profit approach, things like that? I know the task order is something fantastic to keep shifting like James, you mentioned before, you got all this free time and then you just filled your free time again. Is that a tool you've actively used to keep leveling up and delegating things out?
Yeah, when we first came on board, the task audit was really good. It's also something where I think the growth for that has been long for me. It's like I would identify those low value tasks, swap them out, and then just sort of sit on my laurels for a little while, not doing the task audit, not doing anything, just feeling like, oh, great, I've moved on.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, it's like, but there's a whole new set of things that I should also be outsourcing. It's got to be a constant thing. And even just since the last intensive that we had together with you guys, we've hired a couple more VAs and we're using Asana to just systemize a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
We've had this like complexity again around intranets and Google Drive and Dropbox, just all this sort of documentation and stuff just all over the place in different places. And so we're going through a process of cleaning all that up again and just, okay, great. Well, now I've got these extra resources here. What else can I actually get rid of? And what else can I not get rid of, but what else can I rely on those people to be able to manage for me?
Yeah.
So that's just constant for me, and something that I think my natural tendency is just to create lists and then do them and feel like I'm achieving things because I've got these things that I'm ticking off. And I do have a little bit of that design perfectionism. It's like, oh, but I design all our beautiful artwork and our booklets when we run retreats. You know, I want all that to look really nice.
Yeah.
Oh, none of these guys could do that as good as I can.
Yeah.
But then I sit there for like a week preparing our workbook before retreat. And I think, well, what was the point of that week? Like literally, it's just a book. I've got to be able to do that sort of stuff all the time.
It's funny where these things come back. Like they come up in these obvious places. Like for me, it was sales was a big one. Like so first it was coaching. No one can coach as well as I can. And then it's like, okay, well, I've got people that are outstanding coaches. Then it was like selling. And then, like you said, now it's like little things like artwork on bookwork and stuff. You're like, oh, no one can do that as well as me. And it's just interesting to notice the journey and where these parts of us do kind of hide out.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. Well, I remember one of the things that I think that I watched was goal setting. And as part of the modules, there was one slide on there that just blew my mind.
Oh, with the wigs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mission, vision, values, wigs, projects, steps. And I literally went, that is 8 years of my brain on one slide. Like that is, I teach this stuff all the time. Like this is my thing. I live it. I breathe it. I've got my steps. I've got this is how I fundamentally do life. But I've never seen it like that. And I literally was like, I was frothing. I'm like, because we're sitting next to each other. I'm like, check this. And he was like, whoa, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, you've got to see this. It's amazing. Because it was like, when that is there, everything else follows. And then you know what you're doing and you can see if the steps are right. And if they're not, you can adjust them quickly because you know where you're heading. Like, and the fact that they're called wigs, I'm like, that's not just goals, you know, like, oh, wigs, what's wig? Wildly important goals. Oh, that sounds much more exciting. I love that bright, shiny object syndrome with the wigs. So, and 1 to 3 years, we sort of brought that language in now with our 12-month clients to be talking, you know, you might have a goal of opening up a retreat, but if right now you've not even hired one team member, you can't open a retreat in 12 months' time. You need to actually learn what the foundations are to create that. That might be a 3-year goal. So let's work in the first 12 months on this and the second 12 months work on that. And third 12 months, we'll start to look at running retreats or, you know, buying a space and that kind of stuff. And just bringing that language in has been amazing. So
yeah. I love that. We actually hired Keith, who's one of our coaches. He takes the boardroom program. I hired him to do a day's workshop with me at the start of this year to map out the next 3 years. So I hired him just to kind of be external to me to kind of facilitate out. And I remember we went through and we got clear on our numbers for the next 10 years, 3 years, 1 year, and then quarterly. What are, you know, revenue, gross profit, net profit, cash in bank, then core projects and things like that. I remember going through it saying, well, this is what I like. I was like, but there's no way that I can see how that's possible. And it's interesting how we get in our own way. And Keith said, you don't need to know how it's possible, Barry, or you don't need to know how it's going to be possible. We just need to know it is possible and be clear on what it looks like. And I just went through today looking to do the end of Q1, like kind of wrap up and going, holy shit, we actually smashed what we put down here. And remembering at the start of the year when we went through and wrote these numbers, how different it is. And so I guess, you know, advice to anyone watching, listening is do get clear on your goals. Like get clear on your goals, get clear on why they're important to you. And like you said, there's a really good training around the wigs that we do where we break down like vision, mission, values into like your weeks. What are your wildly important goals? Then kind of key projects, steps to success, and so forth down through that. And then rather than focusing on how am I going to achieve my vision and change the whole entire bloody world, or how am I going to get my business to 8 figures or multiple 8 figures or whatever that goal is, just focus on the steps. And then you can constantly refer back to, is this step moving me further towards or away from my goal? And it comes back to what you said before, Elicia, like if this training or if this thing that I'm doing is not moving me closer towards my goal, be okay to stop doing it, or be okay halfway through to abandon it, as long as you've given it a go and you can actually assess whether or not it's moving you towards or away from the destination you want to go. Yeah. The question I've got is, for anyone watching this that, maybe newer members to the Game Changers, what advice would you give them around like how to best use the program and how to get the most out of the program? Like you guys have obviously done a bunch of coaching programs and trainings prior to joining us as well. I'd be curious to know, like, how do you think that they can kind of unlock the best of themselves and the best of the program based on your experience?
Come to intensives and come to the Sherps. Like,
yeah,
I really do make them a priority, and I haven't been for 2 weeks and I miss it. Like I love the connection. I don't always have questions. I just genuinely love the connection, chatting to people, seeing their gorgeous faces, saying hi, and knowing that we're all doing similar things, even if we're vastly different industries. I think it's actually really important when you sit, like I'm sitting here at my computer doing my thing, but I actually know that I'm connected to, 50 or 60 other people. That's important for me because I sort of think that keeps me not accountable. It's the wrong word, but if it matters for them, then it matters to me. So I want to be the best version of me. And if I bring that to a Sherp, then I know that it will allow others to as well. And I think then ask lots of questions until you've got clarity. If you're not clear, Brene Brown says unclear is unkind and clear is kind. So if you want kindness in your life, be clear, get clear. If you need help, get it, just ask. So what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I reckon when, a little bit like you said earlier, Barry, when you first start a business, the path is a bit clearer. And so in something like Game Changers or any similar program, it's kind of like just do this, then this, then this, then this. And putting your head down and bum up can get you a long way really quickly. That's exactly what we did. We had awesome growth at the start because the path was really obvious. And a huge part of the learning for me overall has been hitting that level where it's not as obvious anymore. So it does become way more important to actually not just try and do, well, the training is there in the portal, I'm just going to do it. It becomes more about strategy and about trying to ask for what's the next best idea and then just trying to see if it's going to work or not. And if it doesn't, that's okay. Just moving to the next thing more quickly and making sure that kind of bread and butter foundation is happening in the background. But that's probably for me been the biggest thing. It's not so much, oh, we did this, then this, then this, then this, because that's how it was laid out. But it's like we've been able to come in and say, oh, this seems to be my biggest challenge right now. What can we do? And having someone else to just kind of bounce ideas around is the gold. That's what we're looking for. It's that experience and that ideas generation. And it's not even always a solid solution either. That's sometimes kind of frustrating, but it's the truth. It's like, this is business at this level. It's not always really obvious what's going to solve this. But someone else who's been there before and is working with a bunch of other businesses and helping everyone still has a way better idea of things to try than I do. So it's great to be able to go through that process and ask. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So follow the process and start to get that momentum, and then be okay to not have the clearest of path, but keep asking questions as well. Because like if we did have a specific clear path of here to here, A, it'd probably be boring, and B, we probably wouldn't be challenged to go on it anyway. Like part of the reason we are business owners is because we like the challenge and like to learn new things. I think there's also an important thing as well is that like through showing up and actually helping others and answering others' questions, I feel often that in the answer to others, we get the answer to our own problems. I don't know about you guys, but I know whenever I'm stuck, if I'm putting myself out there and helping other people out, I often notice that the stuff that I'm sharing with them relates to specifically where I'm stuck in my own life, my own business. And if I just take that information back round, I can actually solve my own problems. Do you guys find that as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
You guys are absolute rock stars. I'm so grateful to have had this catch up today and share your knowledge and wisdom to the crew. And I'm sure they got a heap of value out of it. Thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom, and for being part of an incredible community we have here at the Game Changers as well.
Yeah, thank you, Barry. It's been great.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
If you're in a position that many of our clients were before joining us, which is that your business is controlling you rather than you controlling your business, we would love to have a chat to you to see whether or not we might be the right fit to partner with you to help you grow and succeed in business. And over the past 8 years, we've helped hundreds of business owners around the world to grow, scale, and succeed in business. Many of our clients report that we've helped them to triple their profits and double their time off in 12 months or less. If you jump onto YouTube and notice the hundreds of testimonies, you'd see that this is a common theme amongst them. If you're a business owner that's generating more than $300,000 a year in annual revenue, whether it's $500 million, $5 million, even $10 million a year, and you're looking to take your business and your life to the next level, we might be able to help. If you're noticing that your business is lacking structure, maybe systems or processes, maybe you're not quite attracting enough or the right type of quality leads, making enough sales, or maybe you're even having issues finding, hiring, retaining, and training the right team members, we could be a fit for you. Ultimately, we believe that we never have business problems, we have personal problems that are expressed through our business, and a lot of the work we do is with you as a business owner, helping you to constantly upgrade the way that you see life, the way that you make decisions, and the way that you help construct a profitable and purpose-driven business. In order for us to do that though, you need to book in a quick 15-minute application call with one of our scaling specialists here at the Game Changers. Through the 15-minute call, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions to see if or how we might better help you. If we can't help you, we'll let you know politely and do our best to point in the direction of someone that can. However, if we can help you, we'll look at booking you a 1-hour game plan session where we're going to dive a lot deeper into where you and your business are at right now, where it is that you want to go in the next 3, 5, and 10 years' time, and what are the potential roadblocks or challenges or even opportunities that are along the journey in order for you to get there faster. If you're really feeling that it's time for you to experience the love and the joy of running a business again, if you're really wanting to experience a business that does actually operate without you while still producing profit, we may very well be the right fit. So book in a 15-minute call, we can have a chat and see where we go from there. My name is Magliarditi, and thanks for listening. Hopefully we get a chance to talk soon.